Hey, can I ask you something? When did we stop asking who is this person and start asking what does this person have? When did our worth become measured by our bank accounts, our job titles, our possessions, our relationships, and or our social media following? When did success become something that we performed rather than something that we actually experienced? Now, I'm not criticizing or judging anybody. I'm just simply stating some things that I've observed. And based on those observations, I couldn't help but wonder, have we confused what we own with who we are? Let's talk about it. Welcome to Sweet Lies and Bitter Truths, where the lies are sweet, the truth is bitter, and the tea is always piping hot. I am your host, Akenda LaRue. If today's conversation resonates with you, grab your coffee, your tea, and your favorite snack. Oh, and don't forget to grab your pen and your paper because you may hear something today worth reflecting on later. Now, sit back, relax, and let's talk about it. Now, I don't know about you, but I've lived long enough to witness the world change. I'm telling you, I have watched us go from handwritten love letters to emails, from answering machines to smartphones, and from photo albums to social media reels. And I'm not saying one generation is better than the other because I know every generation has its own gifts as well as every generation having its own challenges. I'm just simply sharing something that I've observed, something that I've noticed through conversations, through my own life experiences, and through simply paying attention. And somewhere along the way, for me, based on what I've observed, consumerism stopped selling products and started selling identity. Think about it. We were told that if we bought the right things, earned enough money, lived in the right neighborhood, drove the right car, or wore the right labels, we would finally feel like we were enough. And for the most part, it sounds harmless. And sometimes it even sounds inspiring until one day we begin measuring our lives based on things that were never meant to measure us in the first place. That's the sweet lie. The sweet lie is that our value can be increased by what we own. Now, let's talk about the bitter truth. The bitter truth is that our value has never been determined by our looks, our possessions, status, or titles. And if I can be completely honest with you, when I think about my own life, I think about how many times I've had to start over. I had to let go of furniture, photographs, memorabilia, clothes, and things that represented who I was at that moment in time. And although those things were meaningful, they didn't represent who I was. They didn't define me. And honestly, losing them didn't make me any less valuable either. That's why this isn't a conversation about judging people for liking nice things. I enjoy beautiful things just as much as the next person. I appreciate good design, quality over quantity. That's something that my sister's father used to always preach to us. Quality over quantity, which means it may cost you a little bit of money at first, but if you buy right the first time, you won't have to keep buying that same thing over and over again. You know what I mean? I also appreciate really good craftsmanship and creativity. So the question isn't, do you own beautiful things? The question is, if those things disappeared today or tomorrow, who would you be? Because titles can change, money comes and goes, homes change, careers change, even relationships change. But character, integrity, kindness, discernment, wisdom, those those things remain the same always. You never have to question those things. With that being said, I've noticed that the people who seem most at peace with themselves aren't always the people with the most. They're often the people who no longer need those possessions to determine their value or their worth. Maybe that's the invitation today. Not to own less, not to reject success, and not to stop enjoying beautiful things, but to remember that the most valuable parts of us have never been for sale. T reflection. I like to leave you with a few questions, not because I have all the answers, but because good questions often lead to better answers. So the first question is, who are you when no one else is watching and nothing that you own is a part of the conversation? Question number 2 is, what part of your identity has nothing to do with your possessions, your profession, your appearance, or someone else's opinion of you? And if today's reflection doesn't describe you, perhaps it reminds you of someone that you know. Sometimes reflections isn't about seeing ourselves. Sometimes it's about understanding someone else's experiences and perspectives with a little more compassion. One last sip. If everything around you suddenly changed today or tomorrow, what part of you would remain exactly the same? Because perhaps the strongest foundation that we can build isn't the one everyone else can see. It's the one that we carry inside of us. Thank you for spending this time with me, and thank you for joining me on this first episode of Sweet Lies and Bitter Truths. I am your host, Akenda LaRue. If today's conversation gave you something to think about, I'd love for you to continue the conversation with me. Tomorrow, I'll be sharing today's tea in the community tab. It's a simple reflection inspired by today's episode, and I'd love to hear your thoughts. If you enjoyed today's conversation, please don't hesitate to like, comment, subscribe, and share this episode with someone who might appreciate looking at life through a different lens. Until next time, keep asking, keep learning, and keep growing. Take care of yourselves, be patient with yourselves, and never stop asking better questions, because better questions often lead to better answers. I'll see you next Monday for another episode of Sweet Lies and Bitter Truths. Bye for now.